Hi, this is Angela Heath, speaker, trainer, and author, and this is part 2 of a 3-part series we're doing on the caregiving market and the CARE Act. In the first part of this series, we talked about who caregivers are, what they do, and what they need. And we began to really take a look at the caregiving market and what it might mean for you if you're in an industry that serves caregivers. In this segment, we want to take a look at the CARE Act, what it is, and what it might mean for caregivers as well as hospitals. So before I talk about the CARE Act, I want to read a letter to you. And the reason I chose this letter is because it's from a caregiver in Washington, D.C., and it really underscores the importance of the CARE Act. I had the great distinction of creating a caregiver support program in Washington, D.C. that was citywide, and so we have lots of letters that express appreciation for the work that we've done. You see, caregivers oftentimes are on their own and they don't get the support that they need. And so any little thing we can do to make their lives easier is a win for me. So let me read a portion of this letter to you so you can hear why this CARE Act is so important. This caregiver says, "Thank you so much for all of your hard work and for your attention to details. It really means a lot. When my mom left the hospital, I was so confused. There were so many medicines and I was so scared. When I had to give her a bath, I was frightened. I didn't know about all of the supplies and the medical things that I could buy to make that easier for her and for me. So thank you and the social work staff so much for all of their help." And she goes on to say a couple other things. But let's talk about this CARE Act. It is so simple, but it's going to make such a big difference in the lives of caregivers. So what does it mean? The CARE Act means caregiver, advise, record, and enable act. Advise. Simple. All the hospital has to do is advise the caregiver when they are transferring the older person, whether they're being discharged from home or being transferred to another care facility. Sounds simple, sounds logical. But caregivers have told me that there have been times when they didn't even know that their older relative had been discharged until they got that telephone call saying, "Where are you? This person's been waiting for you for hours." With the CARE Act, that won't happen again. Record. It gives the older person an opportunity to record in their medical record who that caregiver will be. That is really, really important, so that the person that the older relative chooses will be the person that the hospital communicates with. But the most important part of this act, in my estimation, is called enable. It will allow or require the hospital to train caregivers so that they'll know how to do all of those medical tasks and health tasks once they get home. You would be absolutely amazed at what caregivers are doing in the home. They're using medical equipment, they're cleaning wounds, they are managing medications, they are doing so many things that many of them just don't understand how to do. But in the 19 states where the CARE Act has been passed, caregivers will get the education that they need and deserve. Now that sounds great for the caregiver, you may be thinking, but is it also good for the hospital? Does it create more work for them? Not really. If you look at the cost of implementing the program versus the benefits, it's a great deal. It's not going to cost them very much. But the benefits could be enormous, because no hospital wants to get dinged for having a revolving door. People leaving and coming back, leaving and coming back, because they're not well enough to be outside of the hospital, but many times because they don't have that support that they need. But through the CARE Act, the caregivers will be identified, They will be taught how to support that person, and they will be informed of any changes that are happening. It's a win-win-win situation. So thank you so much for paying attention, and the last part of this series is going to talk about how caregivers and hospitals can make it a win-win piece of legislation. Visit me at www.angelaheathspeaks.com, and thank you for joining me. Bye.